What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to On Point. This episode is with John Stallone, and this was actually one episode. I'm going to cut it into two parts. One was a completely accidental Arrow episode, but you get two guys like me and John, and that's just bound to happen. But the main episode was to go over the Howl for Wildlife organization that he is a member and a representative of, and we just talk about that with a lot of the unprecedented retarded things going on nowadays in the legislations in all over, from Colorado, Utah, California, Oregon, Washington. Just, we are getting hit from all angles, all sides. And even if you don't live in those states, trust me, that is a hit to you, because what sets a precedent in one state can set a precedent in another state, and it just spills over. And so we all need to get involved. We all need to get on the same page. It's a very important topic. And at the end, hopefully you go to howlforwildlife.org and you sign up and become a member completely free. And it eventually, I guarantee you, you will be a benefactor of it directly, if not already indirectly. So outside of that, guys, hope you enjoy the episode, and I will see you at the end. So I want you to talk to me about Howl. Is it Howl for Wildlife, or what do you got going on there?
So Howl for Wildlife was grown out of the necessity of having a fast-acting tool to focus like the sportsman's voice on issues concerning wildlife management and hunting and fishing. So Howl's goal is really like to shut down any initiative that doesn't support science-based or sound management, I should say, not just necessarily science-based, but sound management practices. Mm-hmm. And they basically, they want to protect wildlife through the North American model of conservation. You know, this is what works. This is what's proven to work. And it doesn't cost you a dime to be a member. They're not going to bombard you with, newsletters and spam mail and constantly asking you for money. Yes, they take donations, and they'd be happy to take a donation because that's how it's ran. But they're not going to be constantly asking for money like some other organizations do. They're not going to constantly annoy you with emails and stuff. You become a member, and the only time you're going to get an email is when they need you to take a stand. And the way it works is there's an action center. And when you go to the action center, like for instance, right now we're dealing with in Arizona, there is a movement. It's not a petition yet. It's not in the works yet, but it's during the open comment period. And there's a lot of emails trying to get this game commission to look at mountain lion, bear hunting, and bobcat hunting in Arizona. So what Howl is doing is right now, to combat that, if you go on the action center, you click on the Arizona the Arizona mountain lion and bear ban, mm-hmm. and it's a petition, but it also sends an email to the open comment section right now and to the rulemaking department. Okay. And the email will read, this is, abbreviated, but it basically says, I'm a concerned sportsman. I don't want our the management of wildlife in Arizona to be dictated by emotions or something along those lines. And I do not support any banning of lion hunting, bear hunting, and bobcat hunting. Or it says something to the effect, we support, science-based wildlife management, and we want, to stay status quo. So stuff like that, it's several different emails. And I'm probably not saying them correctly, but they're very well written, and they get sent out to the powers that be. And then it shows in this particular case. So I'll explain how this all works. Every 5 years, the Fish and Game Department here is required to evaluate And they have an open comment section period, that is from January 1st to January 31st. And they take in all these comments about how the last 5 years was, basically. And then with that, they take those comments and they decide, okay, well, we got to look at this. We got to look at that. We got to look at this. So what's going on is they're laying the foundation for them to come in and put a petition to remove hunting. They're going to come and say, see, the social science, this is their new thing, because we're always talking about science, and now they got their own science to back things up. It's social science. They're doing it right now in California. They said that 70% of Californians don't want sport hunting for bears. I don't know how they managed to poll everybody in California and come up with that number, right. But the social science. Anyway, so they're gonna cite that the social science. See, all these people, it was lopsided. That's what their goal is, to show that the Fish and Game, that there was a lopsided opinion during the open comment period. So hopefully now they've gotten like 2,000 something emails from non-hunting. But it's funny thing is almost none of them are from Arizona. Really? So it's not like they could say 70% of Arizonians, just whatever the comments coming from, but they're not from Arizona, most of them.
Do any of these comments have to have a name and phone number and address attached to them, or are they all could they just be generic computer emails?
Has to be a name and email, but I don't think the Fish and Game is checking. I mean, honestly,
because it could be 10 people with.
Yep, it really could be
a bot.
It probably could be. Yeah, I honestly don't know. But so what we're doing to combat that, so that we don't have that issue, is we have a name and phone number when you sign up. But we're not giving that to the Fish and Game unless they ask us for it. To verify. But we're going to give them the petition, and we're going to give them now they're getting all the emails. Excuse me. This is why I don't do podcasts at 9 o'clock, because when I'm talking about stuff I got to think about. I'm not very good at this time of night.
It's all
old man shit, man. But yeah, so that's why, I mean, Howl for Wildlife is doing stuff that other organizations are not set up to do. It was actually designed to be a tool for all the conservation organizations to use. It's to be fast acting, it's a way to focus the voice. And the reason why it's Howl, the name Howl for Wildlife came up out of a few different things. One, Howl stands for hunters. I can't remember exactly, but I got to remember, but it actually has an acronym of hunters and, for wildlife, whatever. And then the other reason why is we want to be a pack and have a focused voice, like a, strong Howl, one strong voice in a focused direction. And I kind of, every time I think about it, I think about my son, and he watches a lot of Godzilla, and the fire coming out of Godzilla's mouth in a straight line, like that's what the focus was. And, we wanted our voice to be heard, because we are a force to be reckoned with. And the problem with us is we're so divided as a group. We need to really stop looking at hunting as an individual sport and think of it as a community, because the main problem we have is that, okay, so this is lion hunting, bear hunting, and bobcat hunting, which is the low hanging fruit. Like, when it comes to hunting, there's not as many people that hunt those things as there are deer and elk, let's say, right? So a guy in, let's say, New York that hunts whitetail out of a tree stand doesn't give two shits about a guy in Colorado who hunts elk. Nobody cares. We don't care about each other's, because it's not our thing, right? It doesn't affect us. So why does mountain lion hunting in Arizona affect you in Oregon? Right now it doesn't, but right. We don't look at the big picture. The big picture is, I'll give you for instance, okay, so they got trail cameras banned here in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
3 months later, it got banned in Utah.
Right.
They set precedents, and then they moved to the next low-hanging fruit in the next state. And that's one thing. And then the other thing is, like, even if that wasn't a reality. So just a little background. I didn't say this earlier. I went to school for a master's degree in Colorado State University for rangeland management and ecology. I have a professional certificate in forestry from Penn Forester, and I'm a certified deer steward from Clemson. So I have a really good. I don't practice. I build swimming pools for a living. I don't work in that industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm far removed from it. So that's why I don't include myself as an authority on the subject. But I know enough to be dangerous. That's the reason why I'm bringing it up. But one of the things I did learn, and I still look at everything holistically. I know when you enter a system, no matter which way you enter it from, it changes something on the other side of that system. There's always a yin and a yang. There's always a push and pull. That goes back to what we were talking about with the arrows.
Mm-hmm.
You always got to give up something to gain something. And it's like, people don't look at it that way. They don't look at it like, well, I don't lion hunt and I don't bear hunt, but it affects deer hunting and elk hunting and antelope hunting and javelina hunting here. Like it has impact on it. Lions. Well, I'm just going to use lions because the numbers are easier for me to explain to you. It's well-known fact that a lion has to kill one big game animal every week, right?
Right.
If it's an elk, they say one every 2 weeks. But so let's go with their main diet, their favorite thing to hunt is mule deer, just so you know, across the board. Mule deer is number one. So in Arizona, we have approximately 2,500 lions.
That's it?
Yeah. It goes up as high as 4,000.
Okay.
And
Oregon's pushing 7,000.
okay, but you got different habitat. So
yeah.
we're very limited on what, and we don't have nearly as many deer. Well, listen to how many deer we have. So Arizona has about 110,000 mule deer, 50,000 coos deer, 30,000 elk, and about 40,000 javelina.
Holy crap!
Okay, so total out of all those ungulates, that's 230,000. Okay, we have sheep, we have antelope too, but those populations are really tiny, and I'm not including them in this right now. But 2,500 lions kill 130,000 big game animals a year. 2,500, 130. We have 230 total. That's more than half the population dies to predation every year.
That's crazy.
Okay. Nobody understands that. Nobody takes that into account. And so we have a threshold. There was a study done here in Arizona not too long ago. And it was for a long period of time. It was from, I want to say, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but from 2007 to 2017, I believe. So it was a 10-year study period. And within that study, they cite that they feel the healthy population of lions in Arizona would be somewhere between 1,100 and 1,800 on any given year. So we're already at 2,500. We're way above carrying capacity,
right,
based on the study, right? We only take our threshold. Our threshold is set at 354. In the last 15 years, they have averaged a take of 256, I believe, or something around that was the take.
Why is it so low when you guys can hunt them with dogs? Why aren't you guys killing more cougars over there?
Because it's dry ground hunting, right? It's the hardest type of hound hunting there is. I did it once. I've only been dry ground hunting once here with dogs, and I hunted 5 days, didn't even see lion. We cut tons of tracks. We ran tracks. Didn't see a lion.
Really?
Then it got kind of hot. So I went home, and then we got a cold snap again, and I came back. Actually got a little snow on the ground. And then, you know, it was snow in Arizona in the desert. It lasts for an hour or two, and then it goes away. But there was moisture, you know. So there's moisture in the ground. We went out, took another 4 days, and then we finally caught a lion. Jesus. So 9 days riding, you know, 20 miles a day on horseback and not seeing a lion. Now, mind you, for a while, the last 2 years, not so much, but previously I was averaging where I would see 2 to 3 lions a year, glassing lions up. I haven't spent that much time in Coues Deer country the last 2 years. I personally wasn't guiding clients. My guides were. So I didn't see as many lions, but I would glass up lions quite frequently. But you know, it's in Coues Deer country. It's up in the rocky and the nasty stuff, and places that dogs don't do well and stuff like that. So, I think personally, the 2,500 is a really low estimate. Everybody that I've talked to, even the biologist, thinks it's a low estimate. They think it's closer to 4,000. But using the model of estimation, whatever they do to do these things, they say 2,500. We have 3,500 bears in Arizona, and bears steal 40% of mountain lion kills, which causes mountain lions to have to kill more than the 1 week.
That makes sense.
In California right now, bears are stealing 77% of the mountain lion kills. So, I mean, the amount of deer that are dying there is ridiculous.
Right.
They don't even have an elk herd. The only thing that they have, thank God, which is normally we consider a nuisance, is they have wild pigs, and wild pigs are a buffer, you know, a good buffer species. But yeah. So anyway, going back to what I was saying is that it does affect you. It affects whether you hunt them or not. It affects you. And what's even more important about it is they're not going to just stop there. Anti-hunting groups aren't just going to stop at predators. That's just, like I said earlier, it's just a low-hanging fruit. Once they get that, then they're going to come for the next thing, and then they're going to come for the next thing, and then they're going to come for the next thing. And eventually they're going to get to you. You know, they're going to get to what you love to do. And then you're going to be like, hey, Bill, come help me out. He's like, well, no, I was a lion hunter and I haven't been doing that for 10 years. I snowboard now, you know.
Right.
That's my shtick now. Like I don't even hunt anymore because they took away what I love. So yeah, good luck with that. You know, that's what's going to happen. Or, you know, it's like,
right. It's very possible.
Well,
especially on the, and you talked about it a little bit on the West Coast over here. Washington just lost their spring bear, and they're trying to earn it back right now.
Yep, we're working on that too.
Yep. California, typically over here, California leads, Washington follows, and then Oregon follows. Yep. And it's just like, man, you know, like I was pretty vocal about it when they were going through this. We changed the way that we manage our bears. We went from a just first come, first serve, 4,400 tags to a draw.
Yep.
And it's like, why'd you guys do that? And they're like, well, because we had a bunch of bullshit reasons, which I don't believe. And I'm like, you should have went to a quota is what you should have done. And you didn't do that. And I've been very vocal about that. Huh?
That makes perfect sense. Like, you don't want to overtake. You know, we don't want to get rid of predators. We want to keep them at a level that they keep the prey in check. It's a healthy balance. Going back to that word again, balance, right? It's all about having harmony and looking and having everything work holistically. And if anti-hunters succeed in what they're doing, they're going to disrupt that balance. It's going to throw the system way out of whack. And in all honesty, in most places, it's going to ruin, the prey herd. And then once the prey herd gets knocked down, then the predators are going to die off, and then the prey herd will come back, and then it'll just go back and forth, and it won't be ever be in balance. It'll just go back and forth, and the only places that balance might find itself, and I'm even finding out this might be counterintuitive to what I know, that it would in my head and everything that I learned, that it would be in like a place that is untouched by man, where we do not have any interaction. Then it might possibly in 5, 6, 7 decades,
right,
find some harmony.
Right. But I mean, when you go over and basically just basic education here, when you have no human stuff and it's a lot of predators, a little bit of prey, and then it just swings back and forth wildly. But that takes generations for that to happen. It doesn't happen over 2 years, 3 years. That takes a long freaking time. So you're going to cost, maybe people 30, 40 years. I'm just a generic number. You know better than I was. But maybe they wanted to see bighorn sheep, and now they're not going to be able to see a bighorn sheep over here for 30 years.
Going to be able to. It's going to cause a wildlife desert, is what they call it. And I started listening to a gentleman who's, got every credential you could possibly think of. His name is Dr. Valerius Geist. And he talks about the prey predator relationship. And he talks about having this wildlife desert. And so in my head, I thought, having it would balance itself back out if it was untouched by man. But he's talking about like way up in the Yukon and stuff like that even there you see this phenomenon of the wildlife desert, which basically means all the prey animals get wiped out. And then a certain apex predator up there, it's usually grizzly bears, kind of take over, and then it never comes back because it gets to a certain point. The other part about it is, what people really don't understand is, now I'm 45 years old. I'm not super old, but in 40 years, when I was a kid, there was like 4.5 billion people in the world, less than 5 billion people in the world. There's 8 billion people in the world now. And we're above our carrying capacity, but there's just way too many of us. And obviously we can't go and start culling people out, right? Right. And even though some of us would love to, stupidity is growing. Let me tell you, it really is. I would love to go out and I really wouldn't, but I definitely would not love to have that job. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't like to decide who stays and who goes, but all joking aside, we have to understand, we have to figure out a way to hopefully we can figure out a way to match the birth rate and the death rate. It stays the same so we don't keep on growing, but that's probably not going to happen. We're probably just going to keep on growing until we've overgrown this planet. And then Earth is going to find a way to kick us off of it one way or another. But anyhow, that's a whole nother conversation. But my whole point is we are 8 billion people, 8 billion beings that are just takers. All we do is take, consume, and we don't really give back. So if we don't have that conservative, that's why we have that word conservation in it. If we don't have that mindset to how do we balance everything? How do we take just enough that it does the most good, right? That's the whole plan. If we don't have that mentality, if you have a preservative mentality, which is what the other side, the anti-hunters have, there is no plan for putting back. It's just, let's keep what we got. Mm-hmm. I'm going to hoard these marbles over here. This is my stapler, right. And then nobody gets to use it. and there's no plan to put things back and to help them propagate. And like, you know, oh man, it gets me really freaking fired up because there's like literally there's an epidemic of blind wokeness in this country, and those subscribing to it are willing to cut off their nose to spite their face.
Right.
And it's extremely evident in issues concerning wildlife management. These special interest groups, these anti-hunting organizations, they've been planting seeds to gain the support of non-hunting public for decades, just filling minds with propaganda and lies. And, you know, but it's on us, right? We didn't do shit. We just sat back because I even remember this when I first took my hunter's ed. I was 9 years old, and they taught us, don't put the deer on the hood of the car. Don't, you know, just be quiet about it. Don't show people they wanted you to be recluse and be in the shadows. And that was our mindset. And then the other side was all about, hey, let's hire the freaking, you know, most famous actor and this and that, and get out there and show them cuddly kittens and dying dogs and this and that. And let's take as much money as we possibly. So, and it's entrenched in everything. It's Disney. If you watch a Disney movie, the hunters are villainized, right? Like everything you look at, like even movies. I can't remember. I was like a movie. I think Reese Witherspoon's in it. I was watching it. And these two hunters, they're in Oregon. I think she's in Oregon.
Is that the one where she hikes?
Yeah. And like, she's worried about them raping her and this and that. And they're kind of shady dudes, and they're hiking and they're drinking beer. And it's like, so we're always like portrayed really bad, but it's like I said, it's not on us. There's nobody, we're not out there teaching people, right? We're not going out there and saying to non-hunters, because they don't know the reason they can walk on a public land and see herds of deer and elk. They don't know that, you know, the funding for habitat comes generated from the Pittman-Robertson Act. They don't know that donations to conservation groups and license tags pay for all this. Mm-hmm. I tell this story a lot. I've told it on my podcast several times. I've had this conversation with people. I was working out with a trainer here, and it was a class, and all the guys that were working out with us were like in their 20s, and I was the only old guy. And I don't remember, somewhere or somehow one of the guys like, hey, you know, he's like, you know, John's a professional archer and whatever, blah blah blah. Oh, cool, yeah. And so we kind of got on the talking about hunting, and somebody said something. I don't remember what sparked it, but I turned around and said, hey, I want a show of hands out of you 10 guys. You know, you're all college kids, whatever. Do you know where the money comes from to pay for wildlife management? Everybody raised their hand, you know. And they all had the same answer: taxes. I'm like, what taxes? You know, taxes, our taxes. The taxes we all pay for. He said, you pay for it? I said, yeah, you know, whatever taxes I pay for, it pays for it. I go, no, sir, you do not. Not a dollar comes from you, unless you went and bought a fishing pole or, you know, box of bullets or something. But I said, you know, and I explained to him. And do you know how many hunters don't know that?
Most of them, probably.
There is a large amount of, I mean, it's not as bad now, but there is a large amount of hunters that do not know how this all works. So honestly, I mean, I want you guys all to go to Howl for Wildlife, and I want you guys to sign up, and I want you to go to the Take Action page and take action. But I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you all to, one, educate yourself on the North American conservation model. Okay. The whole world wishes they had our model. Just so you know, anybody you talk to in any other country, they're like, shit, I wish we would have did it like America did it. Okay. That's number one. But I want you to educate yourself on that and get a really, really good understanding of how that works. So you can speak, you know, you could speak well about it. Not like me. You could speak like you sound intelligently, you know,
right?
Speak intelligently. Sound like you're intelligent. But, and then I challenge you to one person a year who is a non-hunter start a dialogue with them. And you could start like that. Hey, do you happen to know, do you know where the money comes from to pay for wildlife? And do you know why you can go out to, Flagstaff and go see elk or whatever? I'm just picking a spot, whatever. But if you can teach one non-hunter a year about that, we'll be so far ahead, because let's be honest, 80% of the people are non-hunting, and they're not anti-hunting. There's only 10% that are anti-hunting, 10% that hunt. I mean, the numbers are probably a little bit different, but very close to that. It's that middle road. That's the big majority right there. Those are the people that you need to not necessarily convince. You don't need them to hunt. You don't need to bring them into hunting even. I know there was a big thing, and I was actually pushing it for a long time, was recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
But I started realizing you don't even need recruitment, because the problem with recruitment is you're creating competition in the field.
Right.
And more people taking less stuff, and your opportunity goes down. It's not necessarily, most people realize that and they don't want that. So don't recruit people. But what you need to do is make them understand where you come from. And that doesn't mean you can't even, if you got a guy who does not a non-hunter, whatever, and you want to take him out hunting, just so he can have an even better understanding. Oh shit, it's not like I'm just driving around a pickup truck drinking beers out the fucking window. Like, that's not, it's not Elmer Fudd, it's not that. You have to bust your freaking ass. I mean, you and I are perfect. We just talked about an hour about freaking building arrows, how much we take, freaking how much like hair that falls out of my head because of the shit that I think about all night long to try to make it happen, and those are the things that we need to portray. We also need to portray the meat and how it gets consumed. Like, I mean, listen, I'm not on the camp of don't take grip and groom for that. I mean, listen, I'll be the first to freak. I'm a picture taking motherfucker. Like, I'm have it down to an art form. I know how to take pictures, and I love taking pictures, because that's part of the memory. It's part of the passion of what I like to look back and say, shit, man, look at that, and that's why we put trophies on the wall, right? So it's a memory. It's a token, a memento of our accomplishment. It's not to say, oh, look how freaking macho I am, I shot that. It's not that, but that's the perception. So, I challenge everybody to start helping people understand where you come from, because it will help us be more relevant later on. We're getting less and less relevant. And the only reason why we're still around, and the dirty truth of it, is greed. I mean, I'll be honest with you. The only reason why hunters are still around is because of greed. It's a giant industry that has so many like paralleling industries, like trucks, ATVs, lodging, and hotels, and travel, and all that stuff that kind of that goes along with it. That if it was to like stop today, 100%, it would literally close this country down. Like, that's how much shit is tied to it. And, we don't want that. And the government doesn't want that, because obviously it would ruin. So that's why we're still around. That's why they still tolerate us. But we don't want them just to tolerate us. We want understanding, and we don't want to keep losing shit. We don't want to get to a point. Like, if you go to another country, hunting is privatized. There's no public hunting. There's no public access. There's no anything. It's all privatized. All the animals are owned privately. They're not public domain. And they don't have a system in place. I've talked to people in Australia, Canada, even Canada. So Canada is the closest to us, but they're always behind the eight ball with money. They never have enough funding to deal with wildlife, because they don't have the system that we have. And everybody I've ever talked to there is like, oh, I wish the government would do what you have, because it'd be just an excise tax. It'd be this, it'd be that. Obviously they have tag sales and that stuff, and that's where money's coming from, but they don't have that extra. There's nothing coming from the federal government because of that. And anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
No, I mean, and I've had the same, I did a podcast a long time ago talking about the same thing. Is like, you have a lot of people who eat meat who don't hunt, and I feel like those are the folks right there, even the ones who don't, but those are the folks right there that I think you could really easily connect with, and you could really help connect the dots with. And you know, I've told people, if you buy a hunt license, like it or not, you're an ambassador, because the dude that is going down and doing the, you know, the Coors Mafia thing, he's affecting me, he's affecting you, because that's what's building that stigma of, oh, you know, redneck and just shooting whatever. And it's just like, you know, and it just, negativity spreads. You know, a lot of people say it spreads 3 times easier than positivity. You know, just like if you have
Absolutely.
a negative,
Well, especially nowadays. I
Yeah.
mean, it's freaking, that's all it's filled with is negativity and
exactly. And it
all clickbait, you know?
Yeah, and so, you know, if you buy a hunt license or whatever, I you know, like you said, talk to people. I've given meat to these neighbors over here, the neighbors over here, and, you know, and the neighbor over here too, the corner lady. And I would be shocked if they ever vote no. They all love the meat. You know, I tell them what it is, and then they've even had fun with it. For Christmas, they had some family over, and I gave them bear salami, and I'm like, hey, this is pretty good. You know, here's how I would eat it. And they had a bunch of family over. They didn't tell them what it was, and they cut it up and they served it to them, and basically, like, you like that? Like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. And they're like, yeah, that's bear. And, you know, they were kind of doing that kind of thing with it. And,
Those are the best. I love those.
yeah, and you know, and I didn't do that. The people next door did that, because
That's
I was willing to give them a piece, you know, just a 6-inch thing of salami, you know, and
Right.
maybe that act turned 3 or 4 people into, people eat bears. I didn't know that, you know, like that's a huge stigma. And you know, I probably have, you know, I have a lot of meat in my freezer this year. I was pretty blessed with the amount I put in it, and a lot of that I was excited about. You know, I have like close to over 100 cans of stew meat this year, and I plan on giving probably 25 to 30% of that away. Like, giving it away. I've already given away probably 15 to 20 cans, and it's just like, you know, maybe it's not buying a vote, but it's influencing somebody somewhere. This is going to do good.
That's awesome. That's
And
awesome.
it's just what bothers me the most, and I don't know how. You know, and I've always came from, if you bitch about something, or if you complain about something and you don't have a solution, you're bitching.
Right.
Don't bitch. And
we're great at that.
We are fantastic at that. And so I say that because the next point I'm bringing up is something that I don't have a solution to. But that is how a lot of these commissions are basically, they're very political. The commissions are politically appointed. Ours is by the governor. I don't know how your guys' state is. Washington.
They're all a little bit different, but yours guys is a special kind of fucked up.
Yeah, Washington especially. You know, they're all very political, and they're all very vocally liberal, and doesn't matter whether you're liberal or Democrat or whatever, but if you are liberal Democrat, your side is fucking us more than the other side. I can tell you that right now. And and these people are getting on these commissions. You know, if you hear 2,000 people complain about cougar hunting as a commission, you should hear the complaints, and you should hear their side of the story, and then you should quietly tell them to fuck off, because that's part of conservation, and just because you don't like something doesn't mean it's not necessary. But these commissions are so liberal and anti-hunting that they're allowing it, and they go with it. I mean, how do we fix that?
I got a solution.
Yes, that's what my question. How do we fix these commissions?
You fix the commission by not allowing people on the commission that are not sportsmen. Because there's plenty of Democrats out there that are sportsmen that understand wildlife conservation.
Right. I've got family that are Democrats.
Simple as that.
Liberals. Yeah, liberals, and they hunt.
I've guided my fair share. We've had excellent conversation. Like when it comes to hunting, we might not have exactly the same views about stuff, but the end goal is usually the same. They want to see wildlife. They want to continue the heritage. They want to, you know, and that's what's important. I think so. Right now, one thing I like about Arizona is, so we only have 5 commissioners. Each commissioner has to represent a different county. They cannot be from the same county, which is good. But the other thing on there is that there can't be any more than 3 from the same political party. So if there's 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans, or vice versa,
1 independent.
Right.
Okay.
Right. You know, it's it's good policy. But it's like right now, I believe we have 3 Democrats in there and only 2 Republicans. And I'm not convinced that they say they are, but I don't think they really are true sportsmen. Like one's a fly fisherman and the other one's like a bird shooter, like he's a wing shooter.
Yeah.
Like, and he's like, and it was like late onset to me. Like that's like, and listen, I don't know the guy, so I'm not going to put him down. I really don't want to get into it, but my first reaction to it is that's like a guy who plays golf and tells me he's an athlete. Like,
Yeah.
eh,
Yeah.
are you really?
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah. I mean, I feel like there should be, because Oregon in '94 passed some great, fantastic laws out, banning and banning the use of hounds. It was like, and no one took it seriously, and it had no chance at passing, and no one did anything. And so
That's our MO, man.
the
We always
public,
think we're
yeah.
untouchable.
And I was only 5 at that time, so obviously I couldn't do anything about it. I didn't know anything about it. I was probably still pooping my pants back then, and it just, we have stuff like that. We have a bill going on right now that would literally change the way you lived your life in Oregon. We're trying to
or no hunting. It's banning hunting altogether. If you're
ranching and farming and neutering your dog, and you can't it's an anti-animal abuse.
Might as well put freaking pants and shoes on your freaking pets because they are now.
Yeah, you like ranching practices. Yep. You can't inseminate a horse or a cow. You can't do anything. Declaw your cat. There's rules where you can't bring in certain meats. It's just it would end basically. They don't want you to eat meat, and the vegans brought it up. It's IP13. You can look it up. It's a horrible bill. But that shit, and I'm on the Oregon Association, Oregon Hunters Association locally, that board, and everybody's fighting that thing like hell. But I took the thing like it's in its infancy, right? And I was like, has no fucking way of passing. And then one of them on the board is like, that's what they said in '94. I'm like, touche. And I completely changed my mind. I'm like, we need to take this seriously because I would have been guilty of saying that thing back in 1994, apparently. And so it just, and Oregon's super liberal, and I don't know how we get, because the governor appoints the commission, right? Oh, so and we're stuck in this 30 or 40 year cycle of nothing but liberals. And
here's the beauty, okay? Because Oregon allows out-of-state hunters, it doesn't have to be people just from Oregon.
The commission, or?
No, I'm talking about voicing the opinion.
Oh, right.
So even though, let's say, I know Oregon's got a lot of freaking hunters too, though, period. But let's just say for simple numbers, okay, there's only 100 hunters in Oregon. We know that's a bullshit number, but and there's 1,000 anti-hunters, right? And then 2,000 in between who don't give a shit. They just want to be left alone. You can get 2,000 people from other states that come hunting in Oregon that want to hunt Oregon and whatever. And that's what Howl's doing. So we're trying to unite everybody. I'm trying to unite the guy in Florida who hunts crocs with the guy that wants to hunt bears in California. Like,
yeah,
let's bring them together.
Yeah, I like that. That's needed.
And we're reaching out. We're actually looking for a person in Oregon. I want to have I'm not in charge of this, but I'm going to be making myself in charge of this because I keep talking to people about it. I want to have a liaison in every state, at least one, that kind of has their finger on the pulse of what's going on in that state. And like I said earlier, we're designed as a tool. So if you're on, would you say is it the hunters or bow hunters?
Oregon Hunters Association.
Okay, Oregon Hunters Association. Oregon Hunters Association. We create an admin for that organization. And when you guys have something that comes up that is related to wildlife management and hunting bans, stuff like that. Boom. We start the petition in there, and then we send it out to the masses, and then hopefully we get it. So how this all started was last year. They came for bear hunting, and they came up with this petition. It was SB 52. It was a bill. It wasn't a petition. It was already a bill at that time. And it was going to be voted on. And we got 27,000 signatures in 2 days from all over the country.
That's awesome.
And knocked it right off the ballot. They're like, goodbye. We're not even going to look at this. We're not even voting on it. See you later. Left the floor. Now they're back again. They got smart because everything was emotional on that first one. Very, very, very little science. Now they're coming back. But all the science that they're sharing, it's all refutable. It's all stupid shit. They're making things up and twisting words. And that's, unfortunately, that's what statistics are.
Right. Figures lie and liars figure. Yep.
Exactly. So this one, now it's as a petition. It's not a bill yet, but they're trying, they're going to turn it into a bill, and it's going to be a process and all this other shit. But we're trying to get that knocked out as well. So, moving forward, that's why we need people in every state. So as they come up, because it's much easier to deal with it when it's at this level. The old mentality is let's let it get to litigation, because that's where they make money. When lawyers and shit get involved, that's when money's exchanged. And that doesn't work for me. I'm not doing this to make somebody else rich. I'm doing this because I want to continue to go freaking walking around the woods with my bow in my hand. That's why I want to do it. I want to take my kids to go call elk and look at deer and sheep and whatever. My dad, he's a photographer. Like that's I'm trying to get to his people that he hangs out with. I'm like, listen, you guys got to be involved in this, because this shit will go away too. Right. They won't be here. There won't be ungulates here for you to see. You know what I'm saying? They're not, they're not going to be around. Nothing's going to be here. It's not going to, because nobody's going to care anymore, because there's not going to be any money to care about it.
Right. It's just unintended consequences of these folks. And a lot of people, they come out with these things and these ideas, and they don't think big picture. It's just frustrating. And so I guess just wrapping this thing up, John, is so it's Howl for Wildlife.
howlforwildlife.org.
.org. So it's an org, and people can become a member for free.
Correct.
And it basically, if I have a problem with IP13, which will shut down hunting completely and fishing, everything, ranching, cattle industry, everything, I can hey, I'm going to submit that to the wildlife or howlforwildlife.org, and you guys will be like, bing, and send it out to everybody and get all the signatures, and then send it back to us.
Yeah, if it's concerning wildlife management,
that's pretty slick.
If it's not already on the action center and you have a something that's actionable, then yes, send it to us. We'll get it up.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else that you wanna close out with here?
Yeah, I guess be good to your fellow hunter. That's the other thing that I've been trying to hit home for years now. Is we're all in this together. I know it's a competitive thing. No, believe me, I've gotten heated many times walking up to one of my hunting spots and running into another hunter and glassing and whatever. But in the end, listen, we're all doing this shit for different reasons. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we're all in it together. So we just need to be respectful of each other and remember we're all on the same team. Stop wasting and expending energy fighting with each other, and come together, and let's focus that energy on the people that we really need to focus that energy on.
Oh, I 100% agree. The infighting is insane, and if we can solve that, we're our own worst enemy. I mean, if we were united,
oh my God,
we would be unstoppable. I mean, and I brought that point up too. Is the thing that they have going for them, the other side does, is they all know and they all agree they don't like animals dying. They don't like hunting. They don't like it. They don't. there's no factions in there that says no, rabbits are more important than squirrels. They don't have that. It's just let's just end fighting, animal cruelty. Like, we don't like it, and so they don't have that infighting, and it's just a common goal. And if you are trying to get 15 different teams together to go fight one team, it's not going to be good. It's just not going to work. We're gonna have what happened to Washington happen.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
Well, I appreciate your time, man. We're gonna have to get together again here in the future and talk about arrows and all that other stuff, in depth some other time. I mean, we got into it for accidentally for about 50 minutes.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Really? Was it that long?
Yeah, I'll probably do 2 episodes. One that's accidental arrow episode is probably what I'll call it, and then and then we'll talk about the Howl for wildlife.org episode.
All right, sounds good.
But, all right, man. I appreciate your time.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate you, man.
Yep. All right, guys, that's this episode of the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of it. John is a great guest, has a lot of experience, and is doing a lot of really great things for hunting activism. And he's just basically just trying to get ahead of the ball here, trying to be a part of the solution, and just really trying to unite multiple different states that, this is going to go on where you live eventually, whether you like it or not. And so get involved, howlforwildlife.org, and hopefully they can make a difference, and we all got to stick together on this. So there will be another episode uploaded about arrows here very shortly, and I imagine John and I will probably schedule another episode in the future where we can really just nerd out and geek out on some of the tests that we've done, some of the comparisons of the results, and just what did he find, what did I find, and him and I have done a lot of very similar things, and just really, really appreciate his perspective and opinion on a lot of things, and would love to hear where we follow and what we see. So outside of that, guys, appreciate you for listening. I hope to see you on the next one, and I'll catch you later.